I don't think people realize we already have a lot of socialism. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment insurance, food stamps, veterans benefits, Pell Grants, COVID-era payments, farm subsidies, disability payments, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, corporate bailouts. All that is socialism, much of it appropriate to soften the edges of capitalism. But the DSA are radicals about this concept, and radical economic policy is always ineluctably married to radical social policy. Their platform, for example, calls for completely open borders. They're for what Biden was doing, but more.
Bernie Sanders has gone from railing against billionaires to openly flirting with full-blown socialism. And Bill Maher has had enough. The no-nonsense comedian unloaded on Sanders with biting precision, calling out the hypocrisy of a man who thrived under capitalism while condemning it. Maher's critique was sharp, relentless, and brutally effective, leaving Sanders' socialist pitch in pieces. Let's jump straight into the clash.
Democratic socialism is like a dating profile. Things look great until you meet up in the real world. For example, Bernie Sanders, his big thing was always bringing single-payer health care to our country of 340 million. But when liberal, tie-dyed Vermont tried to do it for a population of 626,000, it collapsed like that poor in the Oval Office last week. Bernie, AOC, Mandani are not Democrats. They'll be the first to tell you that. They're democratic socialists, and that's a very different thing, and I don't think people know that yet.
Maher lays out a distinction that often gets glossed over. Bernie Sanders, AOC, and figures like Zoran Mamdani love to brand themselves as harmless social democrats, but Maher argues their policies drift far closer to true socialism. And that difference matters. Social democracy still relies on capitalism, allowing markets to function while the government steps in with safety nets to protect the vulnerable. Socialism goes much further, shifting ownership or control of major industries to the state and stripping power from private enterprise. Maher refuses to blur that line, insisting Americans deserve honesty about what's really being proposed.
And again, this is against why people sometimes, I think, question some of what you're saying. This is a survey student loan forgiveness recipients. 73% of applicants say they are likely to spend their extra money on non-essential, including vacations, smartphone, drugs, and alcohol. They admitted that to the pollster.
Now, who is this pollster?
NBC News. 52% they are very likely or likely to buy new clothing. 46% they would use the money for vacation and eat out at restaurants. This is why people have a thing about, I would never call it free money. Oh, I guess I just did.
This is where Maher taps into the broader American mindset. Most people in this country have no interest in a system where the government tightly controls essentials like food, energy, or industry. Americans value independence, opportunity, and the freedom to build something of their own. Even with capitalism's flaws, and Maher openly acknowledges them, polls consistently show people prefer reform over replacement. They want improvements, not a government takeover. That's why Sanders' message struggles to land. It may sound uplifting at rallies, but the destination it points toward triggers deep skepticism among everyday voters who understand what excessive state control usually leads to.
We just increased military spending with very little discussion, I don't know if you know this, by $80 billion. Military-industrial complex.
Including the Democrats.
Pardon me?
The Democrats vote for it too?
Yes, absolutely correct. Absolutely right.
But that's socialism, the military. That's crony socialism.
Well, that's
right?
Crony capitalism.
But the military isn't capitalism, that's the government.
No, but it's who owns the military-industrial complexes. All right, but anyhow, So when you talk about giveaways, you have major corporations in this country that make billions in profit, don't pay a nickel in taxes. You have a generation, you talk about this younger generation right now. I get around the country and I talk to a lot of people. You know, I don't know anything about that poll, but I tell you, I've talked to nurses who are working their ass off, doing the right thing. They leave school $70,000 and that they can't afford now to get married and have children.
Maher is clear. Recognizing capitalism's problems doesn't mean burning the system to the ground. Sanders correctly highlights issues like skyrocketing costs, corporate excess, and financial pressure on younger generations. But radical overhauls aren't the solution. Take student debt. Erasing it entirely and passing the cost to taxpayers who never went to college isn't fair or sustainable. Maher argues for smarter reforms instead, limiting tuition increases, expanding income-based repayment plans, and incentivizing employers to help cover loans. That approach eases the burden while preserving responsibility and avoiding reckless experiments.
Radical economic policy is always ineluctably married to radical social policy. Their platform, for example, calls for completely open borders. They're for what Biden was doing, but more. You think you're going to win an election on that? This just seems like more extremism at a time when Americans are begging both parties, please, could just one of you act normal?
Again and again, Maher warns Democrats about handing influence to figures like Sanders and Mamdani. America already has programs with socialist roots, Social Security, Medicare, public schools, that provide support without dismantling capitalism. Those systems are meant to cushion hardship, not replace private enterprise. But Maher argues the new progressive wing isn't satisfied with that balance. They're pushing for a far more aggressive expansion of government control, including policies critics say weaken border security and national stability. To Maher, that's not compassionate idealism. It's an irresponsible gamble with the country's future.
You think you're going to win an election on that? This just seems like more extremism at a time when Americans are begging both parties, please, could just one of you act normal? It's either defund the police or military in the streets. Either MAGA's crypto crony capitalism or city-run grocery stores. No, I don't want that. I want a Democrat who reassures me if you like your Whole Foods, you can keep your Whole Foods.
Maher delivers a blunt message to the DNC. Keep chasing ideological fads and expect to lose power. He argues the party has become addicted to whatever trend dominates activist spaces. Last cycle, it was wokeness, a fixation that alienated moderates. Now, socialism has taken center stage, championed loudly by the party's most vocal figures. Meanwhile, regular Americans are dealing with inflation, border concerns, and cultural exhaustion. Instead of addressing those realities, Democrats keep prioritizing ideas that energize online activists but repel swing voters. Maher warns that if this continues, losing winnable elections will become the norm.
Governor-elect Spanberger once said about Biden's presidency that, quote, nobody elected him to be FDR. They elected him to be normal. Normal! You know, at this year's DSA convention, or as it's commonly known, Comic-Con, get this, you had to submit a photo of a negative COVID test to get in 2025. Yeah, no one wants to do that again.
According to Maher, Democrats won't regain serious electoral success until they return to basic political sanity. Voters are burned out on constant ideological swings, culture war crusades, and performative outrage. He's not alone in that assessment. Many longtime Democrats and party insiders quietly agree. The party has sunk too deeply into symbolic battles and activist-driven agendas while neglecting practical solutions. Maher argues it's time to refocus on real issues: cost of living, border control, public safety, economic stability, and functional governance. Until substance replaces spectacle, moderates will keep walking away.
These Democratic socialists at another of their conventions, they were told to make jazz hands instead of clapping, lest some delegates suffer sensory overload. And also, and I'm not joking, they were told not to be wearing, any aggressive scents.
Please don't go into that space with anything that's like an aggressive scent, for instance, right? Because that's going to be difficult for people.
Oh, for sake. Really? This is who the Democrats are thinking of following? Chuck Schumer ain't perfect, but at least he doesn't crumple into a heap when confronted with Chanel No. 5. You may now clap in the traditional way.
Maher also takes aim at the aesthetics of this new hard-left movement, which he sees as a bizarre blend of wokeness and socialist economics. From awkward applause rituals to exaggerated displays of sensitivity, it often feels more like a performance than a serious political philosophy. The emphasis on symbolism over competence sends the wrong message. Confidence and clarity disappear, replaced by constant self-censorship and fear of offending anyone. The result is a movement that feels fragile, unserious, and exhausting, qualities that make voters tune out rather than lean in.
When FDR was president, when Truman was president, even when JFK was president, you go out on the street and you say to people, which party represents the working class of America? Most people, I think, agree, would have said the Democratic Party.
Correct.
All right. Today you go out on the street and that is not the sentiment. In fact, the Republican Party probably has more adherents than the Democrats.
How did that happen?
I'll tell you how it happened. It happened because 30 years ago, the Democrats said, hey, Republicans are getting all this corporate money. We want it too. Let's go out and get it. And let's forget about the people who are working 50 or 60 hours a week. So you're sitting out there somewhere in the Midwest. You can't afford health care. Maybe your job went to China and you're earning half of what you used to make. Your kid can't afford to go to...
That disconnect explains why voters aren't simply flocking to Republicans out of admiration, but drifting away from Democrats out of frustration. The party has become so consumed by identity debates and symbolic gestures that it's lost focus on bread and butter issues. The working class, once the Democrats' backbone, now feels ignored. Rising prices, crime, weak borders, and failing services go unaddressed while activists dominate the conversation. Instead of delivering results, the party chases social media validation. When leadership prioritizes fringe issues over everyday concerns, its core supporters eventually look elsewhere.
We've got to restore hope to the American people. Working class are the majority of people in this country. They are hurting. After 50 years of exploding technology, they're earning less than they did before. All right?
You sound like you're running again. No? Third
No,
time?
I'm just talking about the book here.
Third time the charm? People usually write a book when they're about to run.
No.
Maher closes with a clear-eyed conclusion. Bernie Sanders is right that Americans are under pressure, but wokeness and socialism aren't the answer. Wokeness turns public discourse into a minefield where honesty is punished. Socialism concentrates power in the state, choking innovation and limiting freedom. Combined, they create a system where ideology outweighs results and symbolism replaces solutions. Americans don't want government micromanaging their lives or culture policing their speech. They want practical policies that strengthen the economy, protect freedoms, and support working families. Maher's warning is unmistakable. Ideological experiments won't fix what's broken. Only grounded, realistic solutions will. Until Democrats return to that approach, their grip on the working class and their electoral future will remain uncertain. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit like and subscribe for more.